Hello, this is Julie Potiker. I'm an author, a poet, a mindful self-compassion teacher, used to be an attorney, and I am hanging out in the written scene.
Hello and welcome to The Written Scene. My name is Adam Greenfield. I am the host, and I'm very excited about today's guest. It is someone that I am very new to, and I like that because I get to learn about new people and what they do. So I'm really looking forward to it. If you're new here, welcome. What we do is we talk to authors and other people about the path and process of writing, and sometimes other stuff as well if we get into that direction. If you have been here before, welcome back. Please tell everyone you know, give us a review, and all that fun stuff. All right. Is there any other announcements I need to make? Nah, I think we'll move on from that. All right. So today's guest, again, like I said, is someone that I'm new to. She was introduced to me by a past guest, Jennifer Coburn, who you may remember from very early on if you're an old school OG listener, and said that she comes highly recommended with a lot of good things to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and listen to Jennifer because she's pretty smart. So, Julie, thank you for being here.
Jennifer is pretty smart.
She's pretty great, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a fantastic writer, good person.
Yep.
Too. Yeah. Okay, let's start off talking about some current stuff. Your most recent book, which is Gentle Currents, Poems of Pause and Peace. Is that the one?
Yes, it is.
All right.
It's really a mindfulness poetry book. It's to give people a little calm in the chaos, which seems to be my brand.
Yeah.
I didn't intend on it necessarily being my brand, but my first book tagline, subtitle was Calm in the Chaos, and my second book was Calm in the Chaos, and this is Poems of Pause and Peace because what I've been trying to help people find and learn how to do is carve that out for themselves.
Yeah.
And calm their nervous system and help them build a toolbox to manage when shit goes sideways.
And these days, it very very much feels like it's going sideways
All the time,
Yeah,
every day.
yeah, it
It's
really
like
does.
we're in a hurricane or a tsunami or whatever.
Mhm.
And what are you going to do to calm down? Because you'll be no good to anybody if you can't.
Did you come to this through experience?
I did.
Yeah.
I
You want
did.
to talk about that? I'm kind of curious.
Sure. I mean, before I wrote Life Falls Apart, But You Don't Have to,
Yeah.
Mindful Methods for Staying Calm in the Midst of Chaos, I was a train wreck.
Yeah.
And I went to a neurologist to rule out the possibility of having something wrong, seriously wrong in my brain, like a tumor, a mass, or something, because the wrong words were coming out of my mouth.
Oh, interesting.
I'd be like hanging out. I'd be with my husband and the kids, and we'd be passing by a coffee house, and I'd say, "Oh, I want a cappuccino," instead of a cappuccino.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
said maginal instead of magical. And, some of these made up words have been added to the lexicon of our family through the years because I didn't die.
Yeah.
But I went to this neurologist, and he's since passed away, but I'll never forget his name because it was humorous because his name was Chippendale, and I always thought of the Chippendale
I love that.
dancers.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's funny.
Anyway, this guy was an incredibly...
I went to a doctor once named Dr. Corpus, and I thought that was the best. So I'm with you on doctor
Okay.
names. Yeah.
So he, when you go to a neurologist, they do all of the scans and all of the exams, but then they also do an interview.
Yeah.
And he found out what my daily life was like with 3 teenagers and aging parents and the only daughter with boots on the ground and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Plus, a lot of board commitments for nonprofits. And he said, I recommend that you take MBSR. And what is that? Mindfulness-based stress reduction. John Kabat-Zinn, who is that? This was stuff that's the gold standard.
Yeah.
It's still taught all over the world. John Kabat-Zinn created that class for people in the pain clinic at University of Massachusetts in
Interesting.
1979.
79.
which is the year that I graduated high school. So I was like, okay. And it's been vetted up, down, and sideways because, Western science, they don't want to do anything unless it's evidence-based and blah, 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 blah. So he happened to be a teacher of MBSR, and so was his wife. But I lived in La Jolla at the time, and their office was in Encinitas.
Okay.
So I'm like, that's just adding stress to my stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I found the class at UCSD Center for Mindfulness, and I took it, and it was like, okay, all right, there's something here. There's enough here.
Right.
For me, who's curious by nature and a good student by nature, to want to take other classes. So I started finding these brain science classes, neuroscience classes, meditation and science classes, and I started taking different coursework. And then because I had been a student at UCSD Center for Mindfulness, I got an email. We have a new course that they were piloting called Mindful Self-Compassion. So I thought, I'll try it. So the class curriculum was outstanding. The class experience for me sucked.
Really?
Sucked.
Oh, that's the worst.
So in the classroom, it was like a support group for people with their problems. And I had my own problems.
You had your own problems, right.
I didn't want to take anybody else's problems.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my shields were more permeable than they are now.
Right.
Now, other people's problems would probably bounce off of me. I have a much more robust...
You've learned.
Practice. But back then, so I didn't go to class much, and it's an 8-week class. I just practiced like my life depended on it. There were, the man's a friend of mine now, Chris Germer, but it was he and Kristen Neff created the curriculum. So it was his voice, which is like Pavlov's dogs for me now still.
Yeah.
It was his voice on all the recordings. So one day I got a call from the teacher who was also the director of the Center for Mindfulness, who's actually a friend of mine now, but back then I didn't know him from Adam, nor he me. And he said, I noticed you're not coming to class. And I said, I appreciate that you noticed that, but here's why I'm not coming. I really can't take on the woman's problem who has, her entire back made of metal, or the person whose grief is, they're in the abyss. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But I'm practicing, and this curriculum's phenomenal. And he said, well, I invite you. And I'm like, who talks like that? I actually talk like that now, but back then I was like, that's crazy. I invite you to blah, 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 blah. I'm like, never mind. So anyway, that class changed my life, even though I did it on my own, right? And then 3 years later, because I'm still on their listserv, I get this email that they are doing the very first teacher training for that class, Mindful Self-Compassion.
Oh, so other people to teach.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I applied to be a teacher, and they accepted me.
That's great.
So I went to a 5-day retreat in Petaluma in 2014. There were 52 of us, 49 psychotherapists, me, a recovering lawyer, and a physical therapist.
Interesting.
And then we were taught to teach this curriculum. We were given this curriculum. And then we had to jump through some other hoops to get our certificate. But I basically hung a shingle. I wasn't part of the teaching team at UCSD back then. I was just this woman, who got healed from this thing that I thought, oh, I'll just rent space here, there, and teach this thing.
Yeah.
And very quickly, I started adapting it because there was best practices from another teacher that I adore, that I still adore, that I went to a 10-day training for. And then I got trained to do experience-dependent neuroplasticity training, and then advanced mindfulness training, and that, you know what I mean?
Just kept going.
I just kept going
Yeah.
because I have the time, and frankly, I could pay the money, and because I like school. Like, none of my kids would have done this. They're ADHD. They would have been like just done, but I like it. And so when I wrote my first book, Life Falls Apart, But You Don't Have to, it was like I was vomiting. You know what I mean? It was like I wrote that thing in probably 6 weeks.
Wow, that's
Like
fast.
it was like The
Yeah.
Exorcist. And then, and it was memoir and then prescriptive. So it was stories prescriptive. And I asked my kids how much I could share.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me specific instances of stories of their horrendous behavior that I could put in the book. And then all the other stories, I had to change the gender, the name, the city, the state, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So all of this helped you get your words out better.
Oh my God. I just,
I'm just kind of curious how that, like, how the science almost behind it works, or whatever science it may be.
I wouldn't be able to do it or teach it if there wasn't the science.
Really?
Like,
Okay.
I can't be spiritual or do not, I'm not saying the people that talk about crystals are crazy, because they've got their thing
We all do, I think.
and
Yeah.
their oils and their whatever,
Yeah.
but that it has to be evidence-based, scientifically studied for me to want to try it, never mind teach
I might
it.
teach it, right? A little, yeah, for sure. I find it. I think it's. There's a book that is called Your Brain on Art, and it's all about the science behind what art and nature can do to the brain waves and how
Yeah.
they're happening, and how it's a healing thing, and how it's now being prescribed. Nature and
Yep.
going to museums is being prescribed. So what you're describing doesn't surprise me, but it fascinates me.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I mean, the sense and savor walk that I teach, where, you know, you're teaching people to open up all their sense doors, their eyes, their ears, their nose, their mouth, the skin, all the exterior ones, and then to drop into interoception inside and how everything feels. And, you know, you can do that walking down the street, walking down the beach, whatever. And that is really, if you put it into, if you find words for it, labels for it, language for it, those are my poems.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I don't write a lot of nature poetry, but it makes sense. You know, it's interesting. You know, you've got the poets that surf here in San Diego, and it's a whole thing where every year, and I think in June. We're recording this at the end of May, so I think in June. I'm sorry if you're listening and you missed it. Catch it next year. What they do is they have poets come in that surf and read poetry at the library downtown.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a fantastic
I have
thing.
I must.
Check it out. We'll talk about it after.
Okay, after.
Yeah, but
Sorry, listeners.
Yeah, right, yeah. Again,
You're hearing
next
this at
time,
the end of summer.
Next time. It makes sense how much nature and stillness is so important to the healthiness,
Mm-hmm.
the health of a brain.
Any time that you are not worrying and ruminating, which is what you're wired to do as a primate,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you're giving your brain a break. Your brain needs a break to be healthy.
I don't know if you saw while walking in the hummingbird feeder.
Yeah.
I sit in this couch with the window open some days and just stare at it and try to turn everything off and just let it happen. Just watch, you know, and it's one of my favorite times of the day. Even I can feel it physically when I haven't been out for a hike, you know. So my girlfriend and I were like, okay, now every week, every Saturday morning or Sunday morning, whenever we get the time, let's go for a hike. We go to the San Diego Zoo. We've got a zoo pass. We go there and just bring lunch, and we'll sit in where the birds are and on a bench and just eat lunch and talk. And it's
Heaven.
It really is.
So the house that we live in now is in Rancho Santa Fe. We've been there for 3 years. And there's a courtyard, and there's these two big coral trees. No, wait, not coral, sorry. Scratch that. They're carob trees.
Carob trees, okay.
So they have these leathery pods that are green, and then they eventually turn brown, and they eventually curl up, and they eventually fall down. And they're coming up out of the gravel in this courtyard that's got hardscaping.
Oh.
And I've got lawn furniture out there. And every morning I sit and have my coffee at this chair that I specifically put under the eaves. So that way it doesn't have dew on it in the morning. And if it rains, it's still dry.
Yeah.
And I sit there, and the the woman 2 owners ago who lived in the house for like 25 or
Yeah.
30 years
Yeah.
planted this whole place. And there's 12 different varieties of sage, and there's all these flowering bushes, and it's like a bird sanctuary.
That's great.
So the Merlin app tells
Yep.
me who's singing.
Who's saying? Yep. I use
And
that all the time. Yeah.
now I know who's singing.
You can call it out.
Right?
Yeah. You're a birder.
And my kids will say if they come over, one of them lives with me, but the other two don't. What's that? And I'll say, oh, it's a towhee.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Yeah. I'm the same.
That's a sparrow.
Yeah. It's just a common house sparrow. I've got the
There's nothing common about it.
nothing, my favorite bird here around this part of San Diego is the black phoebe.
I like a black phoebe.
I love those birds. They're just so cool looking.
How about a wren? I'm in love with the Bewick's wren.
Yeah, I haven't
that
seen
I
them
could
around
just
here.
put it in my palm with its little jaunty tail.
Yeah,
right up.
I love it. I love it. I use that all the time. Even that app, and this is such a tangent, but I love it. We were in Europe last year, and I broke out the app, and I was like learning about birds I'd never heard of.
Did you
in a
have
completely
to
different country? I had to download
the. So I had to download the new pack when we were in Costa Rica.
Yeah. But you do that ahead of time because you're like, I'm gonna get some nature.
I'm gonna get some new birds.
Get some birds out of this. Yeah. So anyway,
So I just have to tell you, because you know Ron Salisbury from Writers Inc.
Mm-hmm.
I just graduated from his poetry class, which was 25 weeks long, and at the end of I think it was class 23 and class 24, if anybody had a manuscript, that was our homework, and it wasn't to edit the person's poems, but it was just to see how the manuscript was put together. He gave a rubric basically, and whether it had a narrative arc, and whether there were words that were that were repeated too often, and blah blah blah. And you can go in a word generator and make sure you don't say carob tree too often or Bewick's wren too often or whatever. So my next manuscript is All the Best Noises. And he sort of threw his hands up in the air about the whole thing. And he was at the book launch for this book, for Gentle Currents, because he's like, there's too many goddamn birds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm a mindfulness nature
come
poet.
on, Ron.
Ron, I'm a mindfulness nature poet, and I have a brand. Like, did you see the 70 people at the book launch buying my book? Like, I'm going to be okay, whether you don't like it or, But he said, and poetry books shouldn't be illustrated. And I said, well, mine certainly are going to be always, because I have this artist who does beautiful work, and it ends up being a mindfulness gift that ends up being mindful moments for the recipient, where they can use it as a tool in their toolbox to calm the down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just muted myself on the swear on the F-bomb.
That's right. I'll make it adult. Don't worry about it. We don't get a lot of cussing in here. I like it. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to find poets who are very specific about how a poetry book should be. And because when I had mine published, he was very adamant about making sure the font was Times New Roman. Like everything is Times New Roman, and now I'm working on self-publishing my own, and I'm talking with a typesetter, and she's like, no, we got to get away from Times New Roman, and I was like, but I want to stick with Times New Roman. She's like, yeah, but. So I was going off what he said about the font, but it's very interesting about what people believe a book should have, without seeing if it works.
Well, the funny thing is James Cruz, who's one of my favorite poets and one of my favorite humans.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that produced the manuscript for me for Gentle Currents. I gave him like 150 poems, and he picked however many that are in there, like 50 or 45 or whatever, to make sure that all my morning mindfulness coffee poems were not in all one place, right?
Yeah.
But his anthologies and his books are beautiful, and his new book is illustrated, and it's actually the image that I had for Gentle Currents is actually what Breathing Room looks like. It's hardbound. It's got watercolor paintings going
Mhm.
across 2 pages. There's little artifact images on some of the pages, like a squirrel or an acorn or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I mean, it's so charming, and it's so clearly a gift book to give you a sense of peace.
Right, right.
And in a couple weeks, I'm going to a poetry retreat at Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York. Wrong time zone. I'm going to make it work because we're in
Right,
California.
right.
And it's James Cruz and Rosemary Watola Trommer. And she
Wrote a little blurb.
generously blurbed for
That's
me.
great.
And the two of them, I would consider them mindfulness poets, right? And actually, Phyllis Cole Dye also, but who blurbed. And so these are poets that want to give the reader a feeling of calm or peace or joy, which is not necessarily New Yorker
It's a very different kind of poetry. Out there.
poetry. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily Masters of Fine Arts level literary poetry. So since I finished Ron's class, and I'm also in Maya Popa's Conscious Writers Collective, and we're doing reading critique, and I'm playing catch up now because a lawyer does not make you a poet.
No.
So I'm playing catch up in all the coursework, kind of like I did
Like you did with this.
with
Well-
being a mindfulness expert, and so my poetry now is getting less mindful and more
More
poetic.
poetic, yeah.
And so there's like 8 or 10 poems in All the Best Noises that I would not read at the end of a meditation.
Mm.
I read a poem at the end of every meditation. So the podcast, it's free. It's Balance Mind with Julie Potiker. It's only meditations. It's the
Okay.
ones I lead on Wednesday morning. They get recorded. My friend Patty puts them on the podcast
that's
because
fun.
I don't know how to do any of that crap.
It took me a while to learn too. I get
She
it.
puts music behind it. She
Yeah.
puts show notes so people see the poem. So there's almost 300 episodes of that. So that's, 250 poems at least, because now we're doing night version. So if people want to go to sleep, they don't hear me ring the chime.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But, my poetry up until that point was that type of poetry. So there's maybe 200 poets in that space that I lean on for reading at the end of a guided meditation.
It's so helpful to have those people in your corner like that. Just to lean on or to listen to or to have them listen. Like it's that kind of community is so valuable to any kind of author, really.
I'm showing up at this place in September, the weekend of September 11th. I remember it because of September
Right,
11th.
right.
And it's in the Pacific Northwest, and it's another cohort of poets that are doing a retreat. And then you become an alumni once you've gone once, and then you have people to help promote you and share your stuff and get advice from.
So useful.
Yeah.
So useful. I want to go way back. As
Way
a
back.
way back in the Wayback Machine. As a kid, what were some of the things you were reading?
Well, I was a theater kid.
You were a theater kid. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I was reading scripts.
Okay.
I was reading poetry.
Yeah.
I was reading science fiction.
Yeah.
In high school, I was in Cleveland, Ohio. The little school, Hawken Upper School, was in Gates Mills, and we were on trimesters, and we did a drama in the fall trimester, a musical in the winter, because you had to have the sports teams have a break because of the snow,
Sure.
so that you could get enough for having the chorus fill out,
Right,
having a
right.
big enough cast.
Right.
And then in the spring, we did a comedy.
Oh,
and
fun.
I did every single show,
Y-
starting
yeah.
from my very first day.
Mm-hmm. You did all three of them.
Yeah, all three every year until senior year, when I did a show at John Carroll, which is a college.
Okay.
And then I left to do extended senior project, and I worked at a theater in Washington, D.C., New Playwrights.
I know New Playwrights. I grew up out there.
Oh, you
I grew
did?
up in Maryland. Yeah. So.
And my sister was a third-year law student. She let me live with her and her friends in DuPont Circle.
Yep.
She went to GW.
My brother's a lawyer out there.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he went to College Park, and
Oh, wow.
University of Baltimore for his law degree. So yeah.
I ended up going to GW for my law degree years later.
Yeah.
But so I performed in three shows at L'Enfant Plaza.
That's fun.
And then
As a lawyer. While you were
No. This was high school.
Still in high school. Got it.
When I was living with my sister.
Okay.
And one day she said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I had gotten into NYU and BU because my mom took me to audition. You had to audition.
Mm-hmm.
NYU, BU, and Syracuse were my choices. And then she said, "You didn't apply to any liberal arts, regular schools?" And I said, "Just Madison, Wisconsin." I got in the honors program there, and I had a housing, figured out. She said, "Just apply to University of Michigan. It's closer to home. All my friends who went there loved it." Because I was starting to freak out because the actors and actresses that I was in these plays with were phenomenal. I was like being cast as a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, because I was only 18.
Yeah.
And they all had temp jobs, all of them. We didn't call them side gigs back then, but that's what they are.
Right, yeah.
They were, So I said to my sister, "Oh, shit. What did I box myself into? I'm going to either be a waitress as a career or I'm going to be a drama teacher as a career. I don't really want that. I don't think I want that. I don't know what I want." So I got the application for University of Michigan. And she had to help me send it FedEx because it was the deadline.
Yeah.
And I got accepted there, and I went blind. I didn't even see the
Didn't
school.
even visit or anything.
No. And these other schools, I mean, you met with the faculty, you performed a Shakespeare piece, you performed,
Right.
I was Frankie from Member of the Wedding. I mean, I can think back. I did this incredible tangent. And I ended up going to U of M, and that's where I met my boyfriend. My husband's my boyfriend from back then.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, so sliding doors, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. Because I read that, you have that law degree from GW and, but you've also got a pretty good mix of concentrations in there with psychology.
Yeah, I was a psych theater major.
I understand the theater stuff, but what drew you to science and the law stuff?
Honestly, I wanted a paycheck.
There's nothing wrong with that,
I
especially in this
just
world.
wanted to be independent and know that I could support myself.
Yeah.
And that really comes from my parents, honestly. And they never wanted me to be an actress. My daughters are both musicians. If I were like my parents, they would probably be doing something
else.
Yeah. They would not be fulfilled. They would not be happy, but they would feel
safe.
Yeah.
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 I know that. I know it. My mother was the same way. Like I've always taught myself how to read at 3. I just came across the first short story I ever wrote when I was 15. I've been writing poetry for 40 years.
Oh my God.
So to me, the arts, and I play music, as you can see with the guitar.
Yeah.
So to me, the arts and being creative was always a thing. But my mom was like, "Yeah, but."
Right.
Like, what are you going to do to survive and pay the bills?
Exactly, because it's actually important.
It is. It totally is, and it's understandable too. It's just, I think you and I don't have children, which is probably a good thing. But I think you and I it sounds like we're about the same age. So our generation.
I'm 65.
65. Okay, so you got me beat by a little bit, but but yeah. So I feel like we heard from them what it was supposed to be.
Oh my
we
God.
tried it. It didn't work. In the end, it worked, paid our bills, but it didn't really work for us. So now it's good to see that parents are saying, okay, you want to be a musician, that's fine. Like, how do we make that happen?
Right.
Kind of a
Well,
thing.
Kara, I'll never forget, something came in the mail when she was like in middle school. A box came in the mail. She had written a novel.
What?
She didn't tell me, and she self-published it, and it came in the mail. And then she circulated copies amongst her classmates. And then I got a call from the principal because loved it. Not the principal,
Not
the students.
students did,
was
yeah.
inappropriate. She
That's
wrote
probably why she didn't tell you.
She wrote 2 books.
That's amazing.
They
How
were
long
pretty,
ago was this?
They were pretty freaking good when she was like 11 and 12.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, and then
I love that.
when she was in high school, she wrote a play.
Uh-huh.
She wrote a play where it was the children of all the Broadway musical characters that we know.
Oh.
It was the lives of all of the children, right?
That's creative.
Yeah, it was so creative that she went to high media arts. Her entire grade put on the play. So there was a stage manager, there were actors. She wrote the script and she directed it. And I got the La Jolla Playhouse to loan us the theater for one night.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's a musician that's quite she's quite, I mean, she gigs all over town. She's quite
great.
Quite excellent. Moon Daddy is her is her band now.
Okay. I love that. I used to do some work with High Tech High. I have a friend who was a teacher there he's a graphic artist teacher there. And I think it's such a great. I don't remember a school like that when I was a kid.
Oh, there wasn't one. My son went to High Tech Middle when it opened up for middle school, and then he went through High Tech High. And when he got to college, he was so well equipped to talk to the teachers at office hours.
Mm-hmm.
He was so confident, and he's a scatter in terms of what he's brilliant at and what he's completely incompetent at.
Mm-hmm.
And the project-based learning allows you to play to your strengths.
Yes, it does.
So you could win on some like geeky total thing that you have no business being in, some like, I don't know, computery thing, because you're really good at marketing and you got the pizza companies to sponsor you. Like
right.
That's how and now he's a successful grown-up man with a good job and a wife and a baby.
I love that.
Yeah.
See, I wish they didn't try to shove kids in a box when we were kids. You know, because they were like, here's what we do. Here's how you get educated.
Yeah.
And here's how you move on.
I originally had him at La Jolla Country Day. Let me tell you, it was.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It's
had to get him out of there.
It's
good if you're a typical learner without a scatter and
right.
you're good in everything. It's, I'm sure, a wonderful place. I didn't mean to badmouth it.
No,
but it wasn't right for him.
And it's not. It may be right for some, but it's not right for all.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of my point, and probably the point you're making as well. Like there are certain ways to educate kids, but you have to find out what is better for the kid and how they operate, because I don't think everybody learns the same way. There's so many things that people don't do the same way.
I used to go when the girls were in elementary school, and I used to go to like school programs, and you'd see the kids singing and engage with what they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And my twins were just always looking out the window. Like they were somewhere else. That wasn't going to work for them.
No, and they're probably the smartest in the class too.
In some ways.
Yeah.
I mean, the two of them, there are two different music genres. Danielle's really pop and R&B, and Kara's very indie. They're unbelievable lyricists. And Danielle's hooks, when she writes a pop song, I can't get it out of my head. It's annoying.
Yeah.
I go to sleep with the chorus. I wake up with the chorus.
That's a good, that she did her job. So I want to ask a question about the law stuff.
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned earlier, my brother is a lawyer.
Uh-huh.
And I remember him telling me that in one of those years that he went, it was and probably more, it was nothing but writing. Yeah,
but it's not creative
it's
at
not creative.
all. They take all the creativity and strip it out. But it's good for logical reasoning.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, for logical reasoning, but I'm kind of curious, how did that help with the creative aspect, or did it have any impact on it at all?
Oh, nobody ever asked me that.
That's what I like to do. I like to ask questions. Nobody.
Let me ponder a moment. Okay, so I don't think it helps with creative writing. However, I do think it helps with logically pulling a thread through.
Okay.
And with my second book, Snap, that was during the pandemic, and I was teaching this one acronym, RAIN, all the time, and it's in Life Falls Apart, and I realized it needed updating. It hadn't been updated since the 80s,
Oh, yeah.
and I wanted soothing touch. I wanted people to be able to get oxytocin and endorphins from touching themselves. That sounds obscene, but you know what I mean.
I think I know what you
putting
mean,
your
yes.
hand on your heart, or
Yes.
putting your hand on your
Right,
cheek,
like
or hugging
gripping
your
yourself.
arms, or putting your hands on your belly.
Right.
So anyway,
I don't think I have those kind of listeners.
that's okay, because there's so much science behind that. And when I teach mindful self-compassion, I teach soothing touch, and when I teach meditation, I have people use their soothing and supportive touch place, feeling the warmth of their good hands on their worthy body for as many breaths as they want at the beginning of the meditation, just as a reminder of the love and care they're giving themselves. Right. So, pandemic, nobody's touching anybody.
Right.
Unless they're in your pod.
Right.
And everybody's freaking out. And so I realized, Snap, soothing touch, name the emotion, act, and praise. And the act is, what do I need to hear right now? That's the mindful self-compassion question. And then what do I need to do right now to change my channel? Because I've got power to change my channel, right?
Yeah.
That is, what's on your joy list? What brings you joy? And plus, it's stuff that you learn about from me that you don't know about, like breath work and grounding through the soles of your feet, and, mindful eating and closing your eyes when you brush your teeth. Like, there's all these tricks and tips that get you away from worrying and ruminating, that become part of your toolbox. And then I was on the phone with my mentor, Rick Hansen, and the P, I said, proceed with self-compassion. And he said, what about praise? And I said, oh my God, that's why you're my mentor. You're so brilliant. So praise, right. Yeah. So Snap. So the P is praise, because if you're a prayerful person, it slides you right into the gratitude practice. If you're more secular, I'm a little more secular, it's I thank myself, I thank the universe, I thank my teachers. That slides you right into the gratitude practice. So it's soothing touch, name the emotion, act, and praise. So I'm like, how am I going to get this out in the world? I put it on the Teacher Cafe for the mindful self-compassion teachers. Then I decided to write a book. But how am I going to write a book to just have that acronym? So I went back through 10 years of blog posts, and I printed them out, and I put them all over the floor. And then the 8 of these look like they all talk about anger. These look like they all talk about grief. These look like they all talk about, strife on the news.
Sure.
So they ended up in categories, and then I rewrote them to show Snap, because they're stories. Because people learn by stories, and I'm a storyteller.
Yes.
So, but you want to have a prescriptive piece, right? So I revised them to show how Snap works in this situation. There's a mass shooting. You're feeling horrible. What are you going to do? Seems like there's always a mass shooting. So you've got a lot of opportunities to practice this.
Yeah, sure.
And then boom. So I think being a lawyer, to answer your question a long way around, is how I did that. Because I don't think I would have thought of that.
Yeah.
Take 10 years of content that's already sitting there that people have gotten and forgotten on my newsletters
Casework.
Monthly for, for 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's what Snap is.
Okay. So it really is, it helped you, this might be not the completely correct word, but it helped you organize.
Yeah, it's like a thread.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, don't let go of the thread.
Interesting. Would you suggest to other writers to have as many different, I don't want to say experiences, but tangents in life to kind of get you to certain points where you can be a successful writer, I guess? So basically, because you have the psychology, the science, the law, could you have done these books without any of that?
No.
Okay, so
No, but I didn't plan it either. I
That's
never
fair. That's fair.
thought that I would write any book.
Yeah.
I never had a goal to write a book.
Okay.
I just kept saying yes to what was in front of me.
That's a better way, I think, to look at it then. Just say yes. Just try it.
When the lockdown happened and Congregation Beth Israel phoned me, and I'm not a temple goer, but I do pay dues
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's a nice thing to do for the community,
Sure.
for people that do want to go.
Right.
And they said, are you willing to teach meditation and mindfulness on our platform to our congregation because people are freaking out? And I said, yes.
Are they conservative? Or
No,
reform?
reform.
Okay.
The most reform.
Yeah,
The least
okay.
religious,
Yes.
least observant for your
Observant,
listeners if
right.
they don't know what Judaism is.
Right.
We're a tiny, tiny people.
Yeah.
We look just like you.
Yes. Yeah.
And we'd like to make the world better.
Yeah, we're trying.
So anyway,
So they wanted you to teach that there.
yeah, so I still am. And it's now been 6.5 years.
That's great.
Right?
I love that.
So that's how I became a poet, because I read a poem at the end of every guided meditation to my group. And so I'm always looking for poems to read
Yeah.
and learning about. And then I started writing them. And one day I read one of my own and they're like, that's good. And I said, really? And one of my participants said, why don't you send that to the Union Tribune? They do a thing on Sunday. And they published it.
That's great.
And then another participant said, my mom runs this Jewish Voices Jewish Poets thing, and you're Jewish. Why don't you come to open mic night and read a poem? And I did. And then they invited me to come and be a presenter and read 20 minutes of my poem.
Yeah.
And I did. And so I became a poet because of saying yes to teaching for free on Zoom. And I'm still doing it.
You're still doing it.
And those are the poems that are on the podcast, which I'd never intended to have.
It's amazing what being open
Just
can
saying
do for
yes.
you. Yeah. I said no. My first word was no. So I've been saying no since, I could speak. And I carried that through into probably my early 30s. And then I moved out here, and I made such a big effort to change that, to say, yes, I will do that, or yes, I can make that work, or I will figure out how to make that happen. And everything started opening up after that. I would get more work. I'd get people reaching out. I made more friends. Networking became so easy. It just opened up so much to my life that I never thought could.
What made you think to change your ways? It just wasn't working for you? You weren't happy?
So I had a kind of, it wasn't a terrible childhood, but it wasn't easy. And I lived through depression, suicidal attempts, lived through all those things. And when I moved from where I was, I said, this is my last stand. I'm going to do the things. I'm going to basically do the opposite of what I've been doing, because clearly for 30 years, it hasn't been working. So when I moved out here, I just started opening up and trying new things and saying yes to more things. And, within 5-6 years, I created a career. I get, out of nothing, and that was all because I just was like, well, let me just try new things.
That's so brave.
It's scary.
It's so vulnerable and scary and brave. And how did you fortify yourself to do that? I mean, that's fantastic.
Well,
usually people do that after they take a mindful self-compassion class.
I'm a strong believer in cognitive behavioral therapy. And
Me too.
I remember when I left Iowa, it was about a year before I left. It was July 4th, and I woke up that morning just feeling terrible. And I said, today I'm going to get drunk. And I don't drink. I'm not a drinker. I stopped drinking before I was old enough to drink. And I remember I was at the liquor store at 9:01 because they opened at 9. Bought a case of beer, and I crushed it. And I went to therapy a few days later, and she said, I told her about it, and she said, well, what was your goal that day? And I was like, to get drunk. And she's like,
because you wanted to numb it.
Yeah, but she was like, did you accomplish that goal? And I said, I got drunk. And she's like, that's great. congratulations, you accomplished a goal.
Wow.
Now try it with something a little more healthy. So you know that you can accomplish a goal. See what happens with something different. And I've taken that with me through life since then, because I it made me go, oh, I can think that way. I'm allowed to think like that. So that kind of, that belief that I have control. I have that control over those sorts of things. There are times still when I don't feel in control.
Sure, of course.
But I think that's life.
Life is life's really hard.
Yeah.
And life's full of suffering. And what my goal really is for people to understand that they actually have more control than they realize.
Right.
Because they have control over how they react. And I remember when I was first, and by the way, I also had suicidal depression. So it's not like I'm this Pollyanna girl that's just happy-go-lucky.
Right.
I come by these lessons through experience and hard-earned, which I think makes them stronger, and it also makes me more approachable as a teacher.
But it also adds weight to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember asking, every time I went to a seminar, I remember asking whoever was teaching, and they were all the big names in mindfulness. Well, really, I know you need to feel it to heal it, but how long do you need to feel like shit before you use your power to make yourself feel better?
Yeah.
And there's some people say that's spiritual bypassing to do that. Bullshit. I mean, okay, fine. Let yourself feel bad for 3 hours, but don't let yourself feel bad for
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So every big person on the stage, when I would raise my hand and ask that question, would stop and they'd say, not too long.
Yeah.
Don't let yourself feel bad for too long.
Right. There's a rule in sports. It's a 24-hour rule. You win or lose, you have 24 hours. If you're in the middle of a season, you have 24 hours to enjoy it, feel bad about it, but you have to move on because something else is coming up. My favorite question is, now what? Whenever something happens, bad or whatever, I'll react, and then a little while later I'll go, okay, now what? What do I need to do to not feel this way?
That's the second part of ACT in SNAP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do I want to do to change the channel?
I should have taken these classes years ago. It would have saved me a lot of heartache, I think.
Well, I think you got to a good place in the end.
I think I have.
Just from falling down and standing up.
Many times. I will also say that I had a great cat. She was super helpful. It was something that I could hold on to.
That's oxytocin.
In a good way or bad way?
Good way.
Yeah. Okay. All right. She got me through. She saw me through a marriage. She got me through so many things, and it was. She died in 2021. And I haven't gotten a cat since. And people are like, yeah, just get a cat. And I'm like, I don't think you understand the level of I don't want to say connection or whatever, but it was this thing that she provided that I don't know if I need anymore or will be able to get elsewhere. And when she passed, it took 2-3 years for me to really start to get past that.
I had a therapist that I saw on and off for years who had a little dog. And when her dog passed away, she said, I'm never doing this again. I never want this level of pain.
I 100% understand that.
Now, we have been dog people and cat people for 30 years. And actually, we've been together 40 years. And I think I counted 8 dogs that we've had to put to sleep, because of various terminal illnesses, which it's lovely how you can do that for pets. But we have one right now that's 13. They live 10 to 12 years, basically, that breed. And she's 13. And she's like, my husband has a mask that goes over her entire muzzle so that she can breathe in the steroid spray to help her lungs. And she's having a hard time lifting her butt up
Yeah.
I mean, it's, and then we have an Old English sheepdog that's a complete goofball that's 2 years old. So,
The things we do for our pets, huh?
oh my God, it's just
You know,
craziness, but it's love.
it is. There's the comedian Mark Maron. He's a big cat person, and another person was talking to him, and this is in one of his bits where he was like, they said, you don't have kids, you don't understand. He's like, I have cats, and they're like, yeah, but they're not kids. He's like, yeah, but I have to kill my kids, like I have to put mine down, so like I've always thought about that whenever we talk about these sorts of
Yeah.
things, like I have to I had to say goodbye to my child, basically, so that's anyway, that was a tangent. I love
It was a tangent. Some
Yeah,
people have to say goodbye to their human children, and
Mhm.
that I think puts a tear in the universe. That's the wrong order.
It is. It is. I wish I could live. I wish I could have lived my life inside of hers. Like that was one thing that I just wish that I could have done. Because I think I just we anyway.
There's a poem there.
Oh, it's already in poems.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay, good.
It'll be out in some books at some point when they come out.
I've got Madeline and Wellington in a few poems.
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy. Like it's not easy, but it's like it's kind of the idea, I want to ask. You were talking about having goals with certain books, so I'm kind of curious. What is your goal with this current one? Like, what are you trying to do?
It's really funny because I had this conversation with my husband today. I want to sell 500 copies of this book.
Okay.
I don't know where I pulled that number up out of, I think we sold 70 at the book launch. There's really no way to sell these books unless you
Are out there.
are out there
Mhm.
and like with your pots and pans flying. And I don't really know if I want to do that at age 65. I almost want to be invited to things that already have a population of humans at them.
Yeah.
And then be able to do a small poetry reading and sell my books. So if something like that exists in the planet, let me know.
What are you doing in August?
I'll show up if I need to.
The reading I do, every prose has its thorn. We have featured authors, and we make sure that the authors bring books to sell, and people buy books. So it's a reading. You get up there and you read from your book or talk about it or whatever.
I would do it.
So okay, we'll talk about that later too. But yeah, fortunately those things exist.
Okay. That's what I want.
That's what you want. Yeah.
That's what I want. I want there to be a population of people so that I don't have to be like sending invitations and sending reminders and and then I'll sell my books and I'll even sell them at a discount. I just want them in people's hands. There's this one woman that I'm friendly with who bought 5 of them for her friends, and then people bought bunches of them for Mother's Day gifts, and then I'm having lunch with her at the end of the week. She needs 8 more books.
8 more.
Because she's meeting with her sorority sisters from 50 years ago, and she wants to give it as a gift because because it's happy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ron Salisbury. It's happy.
That's just so very Ron when you said that. I can picture him saying
grumbling.
Whatever. Yeah.
Okay, can I read a poem?
Please do.
Okay, so it's called Joy Has 4 Legs, Doesn't Ask Permission. No one told them about wars or the price of eggs. Mutts and pure breeds of every flavor run without hesitation, as if the world has always been this open, this forgiving. Wellington leaps and sprints with every dog chasing a ball. Madeline rolls her old bones in the wet sand. One black lab charges the waves with a frisbee in his mouth. Another digs fiercely, sand flying above his head. Both entirely certain of purpose. Just now, just wind, just sand and salt and the miracle of tails wagging. Nothing in them resists. This is how healing looks. Wild, sandy, and grinning.
That's great.
That's from the dog beach.
That's the dog. That makes sense. I heard the sand part. Yeah, that's a great poem.
Thank you.
And poor Ron, who wouldn't be able to appreciate it.
Right, poor Ron. We
Poor
love Ron.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and sort of. You know what? I got one more question actually. So, as of this recording, I'm a few weeks shy of turning 51 years old. And I fortunately have the sort of luck of looking back and gaining insight into things. And I've kind of found while I'm calmer in some areas, I'm a little more frantic in others. And in a way, my writing sometimes feels like it's in that spin cycle every once in a while. So when it comes specifically to writers, who I'd say probably are historically more empathic than other people, where do they go to find mindfulness that non-writers may not have success?
Okay, wait. I need to hear that in in different
In different
words.
words, yeah. So for is there a way to find mindfulness that's specific to writers that other non-writers may not be able to accomplish or use or employ?
So yes, the answer is yes. There's all kinds of generative writing classes on Zoom that mindfulness poets teach, where the Zoom room will open, they'll have some nice music, they'll read a poem, you'll do some breath work, you'll get into your body, and then they'll give you a prompt and they'll set the timer for 8 minutes or 12 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it is, and you'll write your little heart out, like writing down the bones, messy writing, Natalie
Mm-hmm.
Goldberg style,
Yeah, yeah.
like write crap, don't edit, don't cross out. And then you'll share in a group, and then they'll read another poem, pull another line as a prompt, do it again, maybe 2 or 3 times. That happens in an hour. And what ends up happening is you end up with journals of these things, and then you go through them with a highlighter or a pen, and you underline or highlight a spark. I call them spark lines.
Okay.
Something that sparks that could be the kernel of an actual poem moving forward.
Oh, interesting.
And so I've got like 10 or 12 of these journals
Mm-hmm.
because they're small.
Yeah,
And I've pulled spark lines out of them, things that just spark to me.
yeah.
And then that's been the genesis of poems. I'm also now using, because my husband is so techie and I'm like a Luddite,
Mm.
I'm using an app thing where it's a journal app, and I can do a hashtag spark,
Yeah.
and it'll put them all in one folder, so that if I'm listening to like the New Yorker Poetry Podcast and I get an idea, I can say, "Hey Siri, make a note, the waiting room," and then I'll put it in my Spark note,
Okay.
and it'll end up being a poem.
Okay.
So these generative things, Julia Fehrenbacher, whom I adore, who's a wonderful mindfulness poet, runs one called Write Yourself Free.
Oh.
And there's men and women that show up. And if you join her Substack, it's a subscription-based thing where anybody on her Substack can show up to a Write Yourself Free.
Oh.
There's one this Thursday morning from 9 to 11.
So basically, like there is a surfer poets, there's mindfulness poets.
Oh, there's tons of them. And I find a lot of them now on Substack. Substack is like a garden.
It does seem that way. Yeah. Yeah.
It's also like a forest.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also like an abyss.
An abyss.
It's a lot of things, but there's a garden in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of mindfulness poets.
That's great.
And they do those things too. They do readings. I haven't gotten my act together to do it, but they do those things too. They do writing. They do writing from prompts.
Yeah. You know, as much as I've been backing away from poetry and getting back to my true love, which is fiction, what I love about poetry, one of the things I love about poetry is that there's poetry for everything. Whereas with fiction, are there mindfulness fiction authors? You know, like I guess my point is, like with poetry, you can do.
Wait. There are some fiction writers, like Orbital. Did you read that book?
No, I haven't.
It read like a poem, but it was like 24 hours at a space station.
Okay.
and it reads like a poem,
Wait a second.
and it's fiction.
I have heard. I might even.
Oh, it's really good.
I feel like I have seen that book at
And
least.
what about Is the River Alive? But that's nonfiction,
That's
but it reads
nonfiction.
like fiction and
Yeah.
like poetry. I mean, there are some.
Well, I mean, there's a blend of poetry and fiction. I'm curious if there's a blend of mindfulness and fiction. You know what I'm saying? Like, because poetry is great for processing, I think, and it allows people to sort of understand certain emotions or thoughts or whatever it may be. It's one of the things it can do. With fiction, I think fiction helps build empath and care for the world and other people. I think that can be
Depending on what your
depending
characters
what
are doing in their interior life.
right. But outside of that, it's just fiction.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I would say if one of your characters was a mindfulness teacher,
Then you could
then
employ
you
that
could,
in there.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's how you'd get it in there.
There was a book I read, an author I interviewed. The book is called Taro the Zen Cat or something. There it is. Is it up there? Might be up there. And it was because she was a yogi, and so it's like she created this story, pulling in aspects of yoga and
Fun.
yeah. So I think it's possible.
Oh, Dalai Lama's cat. That was a fantastic book.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah. What about the motorcycle one?
Zen and the Art of Motorcycle
Yeah,
Madness. Wow,
yeah,
you're taking me back.
Yeah,
That's
well,
younger than.
that was on my parents'
Yeah,
bookshelf.
right. I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
You're younger than that.
But I think that's another one that's similar to
Yeah.
that, right? In that vein, a little bit. So okay, all right. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and wrap up. I've got one question that I like to ask people. If there was one poem, book, song, movie, anything creative you wish you wrote, what would it be? The silence always happens, and I love it because I know
Well,
that
you
people
asked
are
too many
thinking.
categories.
Yeah, but it could be really anything. Some people get choice overload. I get it.
I can't do it.
No,
No.
nothing, huh?
No, because I have all these plays.
Well, pick one. What's one
all
that
these
stands out?
books.
What was the first one that came to mind?
Death of a Salesman.
Yeah,
I know that's weird,
great.
right?
No, that I love it. Why that one? What? How did that connect with you? How did that stick with you?
I guess it was my high school years,
Okay.
and Willie Loman, and just the pathos and
yeah.
whenever a playwright or a fiction writer can really write the interior landscape of another human, it just slays me.
Yeah.
I get slayed. I was sitting in a Broadway theater not long ago, I don't know if it was last year, and the show was appropriate,
Okay.
a drama, and it was an extremely dysfunctional family. And it just slays me that people can be that brilliant. And sometimes it happens in a novel. I'll be reading and I'll be like, oh my God, I hate this character, but look how incredible the author is at showing us the multi dimensions that we are.
Yeah. I think that's a great example.
And I'm a voracious reader.
And if you were to write a novel, would that be what you'd like to? That's the kind of thing that you would like to write in your novel?
Probably. I mean, I think parenting is so difficult.
Yeah.
And it's such a minefield.
Yeah.
And I think being a daughter is a minefield. And probably I would write a pretty dark book.
Dark book. Yeah. But hey, that's what we write, and that's what we're in some ways.
I had an agent for my first book that really wanted me to write a memoir, and I said, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't hurt the people.
Yeah. That's tough. I've had to warn people that they may be a character in a book or poem.
Yeah, ouch.
But it's I try to make sure that I don't make it obvious who it is. unless it's very specific and I needed to write that.
I finished a memoir at 2 a.m, not my memoir, a memoir I was reading this morning. And it was a really painful memoir, and it came so highly recommended. The woman is so award winning,
Yeah, yeah.
But the things that her mother said to her when she was a little girl in China were unspeakable. The cruelty was just, and yet she spoke it.
Yeah.
She had the quotes. And the book was very strange and very dark because she had a son die from suicide, and then 6 years later her remaining son did the same thing.
Oh.
And she's yet getting up in the morning and brushing her teeth and washing her face and continuing to write and move her body and eat, and in this entirely different world.
Yeah. That's tough. And it's got to be hard to relive those in writing.
It was hard to read it. And I wonder, my husband would have said, "Are you crazy? What are you putting yourself through this for?" But there's a piece of me that does these things because it's part of life.
Yeah. You learn more by learning about others and their experiences. It's I think that's also why we write. We write what we know and hope that another person goes, "Oh."
Yeah, and sometimes we write just to make sense of the full catastrophe to ourselves.
Yeah. My good friend Leslie Ferguson wrote a book when I was her daughter, and it's a memoir, and it's bananas, and I read it, and I got to the end, and I was just like getting close to the end. I was like, what's going to happen to Leslie? Oh, wait, she's still here. I know what
thank
happens.
God, right?
But it was such a harrowing experience, and it gives me more respect for somebody to be able to say, I lived through some crazy shit, and here it is.
That's resilience.
Yeah.
Right? It's incredible how resilient the people that choose to stay on the planet after they have experienced something like that, how resilient they are.
Yeah.
That they decide that life is worth living, so they'll stay.
Yeah, it's bananas. It's crazy. By the way, I just looked down and saw Orbital by Samantha Harvey.
Oh my God, you have to read it if you haven't already.
So I've got one book that I just started, but it's a little novella. And once I finish that, I will dive into Orbital.
It's so cool.
Is it? Okay. All right. Well, Julie, this was a lot of fun. I'm really glad we did this. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you.